The first time you picked up a crayon as a small kid, you probably felt more comfortable and more natural drawing with one of your hands than the other. Same goes for throwing a ball, brushing your teeth, or cutting with scissors. The tendency to be more skilled and comfortable using one of your hands instead of the other for tasks is commonly defined as handedness. The human body is often visualized as a symmetrical form. Picture the geometric precision of Leonardo da Vinci's iconic drawing of a man's proportions encased by a circle and a square. In reality, we are actually quite lopsided. Most people have a dominant ear. The same is true for eyes, feet, and hands. Handedness is perhaps the most obvious of these asymmetries. Hand preference begins to develop before birth. It becomes increasingly apparent in early childhood and tends to be consistent throughout life. However, little is known about its biological basis. It probably arises as part of the developmental process that differentiates the right and left sides of the body. More specifically, handedness appears to be related to differences between the right and left halves of the brain. The right hemisphere controls movement on the left side of the body, while the left hemisphere controls movement on the right side of the body. Our right hand is controlled by the left hemisphere of the brain, which is responsible for speech and writing. The right hemisphere of the brain controls the left hand and is associated with creativity and imagination. Genetics might also play a huge role in handedness. Researchers have so far been unable to pinpoint a specific gene for hand dominance, which suggests multiple genes are at work. This could explain why left hand dominance still exists. If only one gene caused handedness, it would be far easier for random mutations to remove it from our DNA completely. The uneven split has had some historic downside for lefties. They've had to use scissors, desk, knives, and notebooks that were designed for righties. So many lefties were forced against their natural inclination to write with their right hands. They've been discriminated against and eyed with suspicion, as evidenced in the language used to describe lefties. For example, the word right in English obviously means correct, whereas the etymology of the word sinister can be traced back to the Latin word for left. Because of that, many of the natural-born lefties were forced into becoming righties throughout the course of history. While the stigma against left-handedness has faded in most places, scientists are still confounded by the righty-lefty divide. Researchers are still trying to understand what makes people prefer one hand over the other, and why righties dominate.